All of us have grown on the idea and the ideal of unconditional love. A love that is unwavering, a love that defies all conditions, a love that will last until death do us part. Looking around, we find that yes, people do love us, but unconditional love? No. Okay, then are we capable of loving someone unconditionally? And the answer is yes and no. We have not examined this myth of unconditional love, but it feels right, and so we hold it as an ideal, trying to be unconditional in our love for another and demanding unconditional love. What is so attractive about having unconditional love? The attractive part of having love is that the pleased person is invoked in you. You find yourself in harmony with the world. Your complaining and whining stop. You are hopeful and optimistic and solution-centered. You're cheerful and enthusiastic as you go about the routine errands of the day. You have a supreme self-confidence that you can handle anything in the world. You take difficulties in your stride. Why? Because you experience love for a particular person or feel deeply loved. Quite magical, right? The Vedic tradition offers us a sophisticated and profound understanding of love, and actually the Atma, I, through a profound dialogue between the husband, who is sage Yajnavalkya, and his second wife Maitreyi. Yajnavalkya, a great, distinguished, and highly revered rishi, seeks a life of contemplation and hence wants to walk away from his marriage. He speaks of dividing his wealth equally between the two wives, upon which Maitreyi asks, if indeed this whole earth, full of wealth, be mine, shall I be immortal through that? A straightforward question definitely deserves a straightforward answer. And so he says, with wealth, your life would be like that of others who have plenty of things. But immortality? No, that's not possible. Seeing the limitations of wealth, Maitreyi then asks, what is the means of immortality? Yajnavalkya lovingly tells her to sit, adding that he will explain it, and she may meditate on what he says. And he begins. It is not for the sake of the husband that he is loved, but because he evokes a pleased you. Meaning, surely the husband is kind, giving, hardworking, respects his elders, and so on. That makes him lovable, right? Yes, but you love him because he makes you happy. Vidyaranya Muni adds that when the husband is ravenously hungry or affected by illness, he does not show affection to his wife. The husband's life is not unconditional, plus the love is really for the sake of the content self. The right set of conditions being present to invoke happiness. What about the love of the father for the child? Surely that is unconditional. No. When a child is kissed by his father who has a 5 p.m. beard, the child moves away. Why? Because a child's soft skin feels pricked by the father's beard, but the father goes on kissing the child. The father does so for his own sake and not the child's sake. Although a famous diamond company, through some very clever marketing, said, a diamond is a girl's best friend, we know that diamonds don't talk or emote. No diamond is begging to be owned or listens when she confides her deepest secret. If we love diamonds and look after them with love and care, it is for our own sake and not for the sake of the diamond. What about our love for our pet dogs? Well, as long as they make us feel loved and we're happy to care for them, then it's okay. But for some reason, if your dog bites your daughter, then the love for the dog may actually turn into hatred. The dog is loved for your sake and not for the sake of the dog. Even our love for Swarga, the place of much enjoyment, is not for the well-being of Swarga, but for our own enjoyment. You say, I have a great love for my Guru. Well, even your Guru is loved because he evokes the happy self. If the Guru becomes very challenging and confrontative, then things will be different. You say, no, I am a devotee. I have discovered an abiding love for Shiva. Even that love is only for your own sake, not for the sake of Shiva. Bring up any object or relationship and you will come up with the same conclusion. What is loved unconditionally is oneself. Unconditional love for the other seems like a myth. It does sound selfish and not selfless. Then the question is, what type of love is felt towards the self? Is it the passionate attachment which is felt towards the partner and other objects, or the devotion felt towards Ishvara or the Guru? The real love for the self is that which is present even when any other desire is present or destroyed. If all these things are love for the happiness then bring, who is the one that experiences happiness? One and the same thing cannot be the subject and the object of enjoyment. The partner, the guru, the child, the mobile phone, beautiful surroundings, lovely music and fragrances are all loved, not for their sake, but for the sake of the pleased you. The self that does not experience any limits, the one that experiences no difference in the subject and the object. Love for the means of happiness, be it one's partner, children, Guru, Bhagavan, is secondary, but the love for the self is primary. The intensity of love may change for us, but the love of oneself is always present. Following this analysis, we now see it to be true. But then, what about people who hate themselves, either due to disease and wish to die? Even these people, they may have a distaste for the body, but not the self that has a distaste for the body. How is this unconditional love for oneself evident? In the unwavering desire seen in everyone, may I never perish, may I be immortal. Yajnavalkya further adds, Atma vare drashtavyaha shrotavyaha mantavyaha nitithyasitavyaha Maitreyi. Addressing Maitreyi, he says, Atma, the self, I, is to be known, heard of, reflected upon, and meditated upon. He then teaches that the self that she had taken to be just the wife, a woman, and so on, is really the Atma, the one with no boundaries, the one without a second. So then, what can one take away from this dialogue? 1. We deeply love the self, and this love for the self, as demonstrated earlier, is unconditional and primary. This is the reality pointed out to us by the Upanishads. Why is this reality pointed out? So that we may seek to know the self. How? Through the study of Vedanta. Even the study of Vedanta is for the sake of the pleased self, the Atma. Point 2. Since we now see that our love for our partners, children, and so on is conditional and secondary, we can ease their burden. They do not need to constantly be on the edge, trying to prove their unconditional love to us, nor do we have to try to force ourselves into the ideal of unconditional love. We are free to the extent that we offer freedom to be to the other. Point 3. Being loving itself is a great gift and blessing to the other. People look for reasons and strategies to get the love one wants, but the only sure way to be loving is to be loving. No manipulation, no beating around the bush, no laying out conditions of ifs and buts. Do listen to episode number 29 on being loving, where I spoke about the two conditions that inhibit our loving: the inability to trust, and our ragas and dveshas that condition our love for the other. As we grow and mature, our love and its expression for others, including our surroundings, increases manifold. We see that different personalities, different emotions, different angularities are pervaded by the intelligence of Bhagavan. Who am I to accept or reject or think that someone is unlovable and not acceptable? 4. Relative love for oneself is discovered as you see that you are lovable and acceptable. A lot of pop psychology will talk about self-love based on your qualities, which is wonderful. When we look into the mirror, however, we react. Perhaps the color is not right. The shape of the nose is not okay. But the Vedanta mirror leaps forward and says that you are sacred. You are a form of Ishvara. You are a form of the limitless. Every part of you is pervaded by the material and intelligence that is Ishvara. This also applies to the other, whether the other is your neighbor, your colleague, or your partner. All that is here, all names, all forms are Ishvara. When you start to abide in this understanding, there is a relaxation born out of an objectivity. Our relaxation is born of understanding the reality of the world in the Atma, which is Purnaha, complete in and of itself. A completeness that is the basis of the subject and the object. A completeness that has no lack. A completeness that cannot get added to. A Purnatvam that cannot be taken away from. That completeness, when discovered, spontaneously gets expressed as love to the other. And so when the limitless Atma is discovered through the study of Vedanta, you now see that there is no other. There never was any other. Life was relating to itself. Consciousness was relating to itself as though. And so unconditional love for the other can be a reality when you discover the Atma, which includes the other. All that is here is one without a second. And hence, unconditional love for the other is a myth when you are steeped in individuality. I said it, unconditional love is a myth. Conditional love is fine for now, thank you very much. So, unconditional love can be a reality only when you discover Atma, yourself, as Purna, fullness, completeness.